What's going on, everybody? It's that time again, the AllSooners Podcast. Josh Callaway in Oklahoma City, Ryan Chapman and more, John Hoover in Tulsa on this Wednesday, May 3rd, 2023, first show of May. How are you gentlemen doing?
Ready for spring, aren't you? Not spring football. I didn't say spring football. I said spring.
Real
Ready for spring.
where we can enjoy our lives.
Yes.
Well, softball postseason's coming up, so you guys enjoy your lives. I'll be either at Marina Hines, Hall of Fame Stadium, one of the two. You can find me there.
What'd you say last week? The Sooners, last 21 games or something, have the chance to be in the state of Oklahoma. So it's a crazy number.
Yeah, when you thought about it, we can dive into it later, but Kansas series was the last. It was senior weekend, but then Tulsa, that's in Oklahoma. Bedlam this weekend. Oklahoma next week in Big 12. That's an OKC. Regional Supers. Guess who hosts? And guess where the Women's College World Series is? So nice little on-ramp here for the Sooners.
Yeah.
It really is kind of just nuts. And it's convenient for you, RC, but it definitely adds a lot of work. That's for sure. I thought as of 3 weeks ago, I thought, I'm not going to have a lot of baseball postseason to worry about this year. Last year, obviously, it went all the way into late June. But the last couple of weeks, all of a sudden, hello, how are you doing? Maybe I will after all. We'll talk about that a little more a bit later as that team has turned a massive corner all of a sudden as well. So a lot of going on. We have guys hitting the portal all over the place. The recruiting trail is hot. The NFL draft was last week. So we have a packed show here this afternoon as we venture into May. We'll acknowledge, if you haven't seen the news, this will be my final show with the AllSooners Podcast. We'll talk about that a little more later, but want to acknowledge it up front. This will be my final show, but we're set up here. Got lots of great stuff to talk about. Go out on a high note here and finish strong for me personally here on the AllSooners Podcast. So looking forward to getting through this one here. All right, we'll dive in. Transfer portal first. There's a lot of places we could start. We'll start with transfer portal. 3 guys have hit the portal since the last show. 2 in the secondary, Jamarian Burt and DeMond Harmon. And then 1 on the offensive line, Cullen Montgomery. Now, these guys are kind of all different, obviously, despite position differences, age differences, lots of kind of alternate angles here to approach this. But what stands out to you guys about these 3 guys leaving? Any big, great loss here? Any surprise of this group here? Reaction to these 3 guys hopping in the portal this week?
Yeah, so I'll start. It's pretty easy. The big surprise is Damon Harmon, if there is such a thing anymore with the transfer portal. Damon played 2 years at OU. He got some real good action last year. He was one of Oklahoma's better safeties. He was one of their frontline rotation guys. And I think he made a couple of starts. I didn't look it up, but I think he made a couple of starts down the stretch. This was after he almost broke his neck. This was after he knocked himself out with the thing at TCU where he caught a knee. I think it was at Kendre Miller. Caught a thigh kind of in the face mask as he was falling down. Scary. I hate the idea of covering those things. I remember Manny Johnson got hit. I think it was against Colorado. Knocked him out, and everybody was scared. He was okay, came back and played. This was more of a neck kind of a stinger, the way it just was terrified me. That is not the kind of story you want to cover as a writer, and it's certainly not something you want to see as a football fan. But he came back, and I asked Brandon Hall about him, and he said he's doing great, explosive in spring practice. He looked good, felt good, everything was going good, and then jumps in the transfer portal. And that's the age of football that we live in. If you're not the definite starting safety, if you've been passed on the depth chart by somebody younger than you, say a Peyton Bowen or somebody like that, transfer portal's always open. It's amazing.
Yeah, when you pair it with the Montgomery and Burt, those guys just didn't get on the field. Burt was a late ad, right, in the late period for Brent Venables and that staff as they were trying to just hold on for dear life for the 2022 class. And so for him not to roll out there and get on the field, that makes sense there. Colin Montgomery just never really factored into any too deep action or anything like that along the offensive line. So that makes sense. But yeah, Harmon not only was he able to come back, but remember, John, after that TCU game, that's when all the coverage busts happened and the rotation for corners and safeties really got tight. We didn't see really a ton of Justin Harrington. Kenai Walker kind of flowed to the background. Those were guys that were getting snaps early. Harmon came back, was healthy, and then, like you said, was not just healthy, but playing. Like, as soon as he was cleared, he was back in that rotation. So really interesting there. We'd heard a ton about not just the fact that Oklahoma had 7 signees in the secondary, plus bringing in Reggie Pearson, but that Brent Venables, Jay Valai, Brandon Hall, all those guys raved all spring long about that secondary. So I think that's evidence that maybe we already saw Jaden Davis got jumped on a depth chart. Maybe that means Damon Harmon got jumped on a depth chart. So now the question will be this fall, talent upgrade. Now it's just a matter of you're breaking in a lot of new starters that are first time in the Venables defense. Are there going to be coverage busts? Because everything was vanilla in the spring game, and most of those touchdowns from the Dylan Gabriel crew were coverage busts.
Yeah, it's funny. A lot of people did the, who is this thing with Jamarian Burt, and the reason you don't know who it is because he literally committed on signing day. If you guys remember, he was a really late ad, and then he played 1 year at OU, and he never saw the field. So yeah, obviously OU fans are not going to really know who that guy is at all. But big takeaway for me, obviously you lose Jaden Davis, who we talked about before earlier in the spring. And then these two guys, Burt and Damon Harmon, and you still kind of feel okay about the depth. It really just goes to show what Jay Valai and Brandon Hall have done with those positions in the secondary in a short time. Because, if this was a year, maybe just 1 year ago, but especially 2 years ago, if they lost 3 guys in the secondary, after the spring, we would probably be sitting here like, yikes, this is not good. But you kind of feel okay about it still, even losing these guys. But I agree, Harmon's the surprising one because it felt like he had a really good spring and, was going to be in the mix. He had some nice moments in the spring game, had that one really big hit. I can't remember who it was on, maybe Tommy Walker, can't remember. But yeah, he moves on. We'll see where he winds up, where these guys land. But, interesting. A couple of late losses here in the transfer cycle for Oklahoma. And we'll update you on some other guys who announce their team here in a little bit.
Sorry, I think that's 7 total from last fall, including fall and spring. 7 total defensive backs, which think about that, where this program was a year ago, where this program was 2 years ago. How in the hell are you going to sustain losing 7 defensive backs? Well, they did it because they feel like they've upgraded at all those positions, and those guys weren't going to play. So,
well, the good news is the secondary has been garbage for like 5 or 6 years. So at least you're betting on young talent as opposed to the same stuff you'd seen out of that group for the last couple of years.
Did you guys think Jordan Mukes was going to be a player, though? Did you think that when he came out of Choctaw, he was going to be that guy that signs, lands, plays a lot, and actually becomes a star? Physically, he was incredible.
I did. Yeah, Alex Grinch loved him.
Yeah. And that was one of those things, too, that you thought, okay, you had saw Pat Fields and Delarian Turner yell. That's what you get when you just get steady. They've been there forever. It's a simple defense. Now, instead of being like 5'11" and slightly undersized coming down to hit, you're upgrading to Muke, stuff like that. And then, it just never panned out. And I wonder if he was one of those guys that, Alex Grinch kept talking about in practice when you have those mental mistakes in practice, what do you think is going to happen on Saturdays?
Yeah, and that's why we kept seeing those 2 safeties you mentioned, Pat Fields and Delarian Turner yell, 5'10", 5'9", some of them sometimes, right? Having to play for 2 years in a row every snap on defense because they got it. They figured it out. That's why they're, one's got an NFL career going right now and the other one's trying. And guys like Mukes and others that they brought in apparently just didn't get it. So that's the surprising part of this whole equation.
Yeah, and even with all those guys, it's still crowded back there, and I'm interested to see how that ends up actually shaking out. Just safeties alone, still Billy Bowman, Peyton Bowen, Reggie Pearson, Key Lawrence. It's kind of a laundry list, and they look at the cornerback room, not quite as deep, but still. Woody Washington obviously is back there. Kendall Dolby, Gentry Williams, Jaden Rowe could get in that mix. There's a lot of guys over there still. They've really done a fantastic job at adding a lot of talent to that room. And I think that's why some of these guys hopped out. They just didn't see a role for themselves. So we'll see where they wind up. That's always the interesting part of this for me is where do they wind up? And there's one kind of surprise for Oklahoma, at least a little bit in the portal, and we'll talk about that a little bit later. Flipping over to the recruiting trail. big week for Emmett Jones. Guys on a heater. 2 receiver commits since the last show. 1 for 24, 1 for 25. We'll talk about 2024 first. Zion Kearney from Missouri City, Texas. 2024 guy, like I said. He is a 4-star product, number 12 receiver in the class in 247 Sports Composite right now. Guy's a stud. He has a lot of really exciting intangibles. 6'2", so he's got some height on him. And if you watch his tape, he's just kind of one of those playmaker type guys. It's not just some of these guys, and not to take away from it, they're just kind of running away from people and they're just betting everyone. He can go up over you, contested catches, tough. Lot to like with this kid. What do you guys think about Mr. Kearney, what he could be down the road here for Oklahoma?
Yeah, we've got his highlights on our website at AllSooners. Really illustrates what he's capable of. I've seen 6'3", 200 on him and still runs a 10.9 100 meters. So a guy that has exceptional athletic ability and physical gifts. He's going to need time to transition, obviously, 2024. But he's got a big senior year coming up is what he's hoping for.
Yeah, and that's kind of what I look for. Josh, you mentioned being able to make those contested catches and having strong hands, but also can you catch the ball underneath and actually make stuff happen in the open field as opposed to simply lining up and off the line of scrimmage, blowing by people, and then it's just to catch the deep ball, adjust, run away from everybody. And Kearney has that where he can make guys miss and all that stuff. And I know that when Oklahoma fans think of that, they immediately think to probably CeeDee Lamb, Texas, screenshots of 15 defenders around him, and he winds up in the end zone. Like, that's what real, true game breakers look like. And so that's always something I look for in these guys. And Kearney has a ton of those highlights as well as that. Not saying he's CeeDee Lamb, just saying like that's kind of in the open field what I like to see when you see that stuff. And he's one of those guys that's had that because a lot of the smaller wide receiver commits Oklahoma's had the last little bit have just been a lot of the take a shallow slant and you just beat everyone to the pylon because no one can get an angle on you or you're running behind people. So I like having that mix added to that room with Kearney.
If you're going by that 24/7 Sports like composite metric number, Kearney's the highest rated guy they've had it in the class so far. It's only their 6th, so they're still kind of in the early going here. But his number is the highest. And, of course, he joins Jaden Hardy, Jeremiah Newcomb, Michael Hawkins, Isaiah Autry, and KJ Daniels, another receiver who they added a couple of weeks ago. Class is kind of coming together. Still early, only 6 commits. I think they're ranked 25th right now in the class rankings. Still a lot of meat on the bone. They're going to add a lot more guys, obviously. But kind of just you're starting to see that momentum pick up a little bit for Oklahoma. It seems like they've kind of been, adding a guy every few days right now, whereas for a while it was like, okay, they still don't have anybody in this 24 class. It felt that way not that long ago. So it's coming along a little bit.
Yeah, remember they had a 2025 before they had any 2024s. So, no, I think Ryan illustrated in the story that he wrote that they're way with their 6th commitment now coming out of spring game. They're way ahead of where they were just last year. So that's got to be a good thing, right? You're going into the summer, into the camp season and that kind of thing, into the barbecue season, shall we say, with a lot of momentum.
Absolutely. And you mentioned that 2025 commit. That was, of course, Kevin Sperry, the quarterback, and he's now got a receiver to look forward to as they added a 2025 kid this week as well on Monday, Grayson Harris from Ennis, Texas. He is a 4-star as well. And he's just a 2025 kid, so he's got a lot of runway to try and get that 5th star. He's a 2-sport athlete, plays baseball as well. It was really important to him to get the opportunity to play both, and that is going to be there for Oklahoma if he wants it. He's been offered by Skip Johnson the baseball program as well, so he's got a chance to be a 2-sport guy for Oklahoma down the road. And now you have a little bit of a little more meat, I guess, that 25 class, because you're excited about it with Kevin Sperry there. Obviously, we talked about that before, what that could do, having him locked in so early, and you get another dynamic player locked in alongside him. Seems like, and I'm far from a recruiting expert, but it feels like they're really ahead of schedule with this 25 class. What do you guys think about Harris and that point, that 25 is shaping up nicely here? Still super early, but it's looking solid early to get guys like this locked in so early.
Yeah, a ton of momentum, a ton of positive forward momentum for this recruiting class already. It's not unprecedented, but I think it's pretty rare to have started already building a class 2 years down the road. You see it fairly frequently, but at Oklahoma, you've seen coaches historically going all the way back to Bob Stoops exercise a lot of patience with those freshmen and those sophomores, right? These guys, they've found two guys that they want, and a quarterback, obviously, in Sperry, and then Harris is just you said he's a 2-sport star, Josh. He's actually a 3-sport star. He runs track. He's very fast, long jumper. So someone who's got that athletic ability, that explosion. But yeah, it was important to him. I think OU was the only school that offered him for both baseball and football. So Skip Johnson getting on board, taking one for the cause there. Not that he can't play baseball, but when he gets to Oklahoma, he's going to find that it's really, really tough to do both at that level. Just ask Kyler Murray, right?
Yeah, and he's just a guy that's got the twitch, and he also has the production too already. He already has 2,000-yard seasons, which I think kind of speaks to his ability to come in and handle a lot thrown at him fast. He actually had more catches his freshman year than he did last year. More catches, more touchdowns, but 2 really productive seasons, over 60 balls both years. I think 8 touchdowns last year and 11 the year before, if I remember correctly. So, he's a guy that's already tearing it up. And you mentioned it, who the explosion and the twitch to have just the long jumping, the speed, his ability to catch the ball, one of those guys. And I would just, if you're an Oklahoma fan, hope that as a guy that's a 2025 kid, maybe he can get closer to 6 foot. Maybe he's not done growing there a little bit, because not a lot of height outside of Kearney that has been brought in recently with the wide receivers happening. They don't need to all be 6'5", but
yeah,
if I were building a wide receiver, I would not like 7 5'9" guys.
Emmett Jones building a 4x100 team.
He is indeed.
Yeah, and it feels like this is kind of we were robbed of Mario Williams doing this. If you guys remember, obviously he was a baseball player, was going to be on the baseball team, but he didn't get the chance to because he transferred out in his first year before baseball season ever rolled around. So Grayson Harris can right that.
Playing baseball at USC?
He does not. I don't believe so.
Yeah. Huh.
I don't know. I thought the same whenever he transferred. I was wondering if he's going to play baseball there. But obviously the season is coming on, and I assume I would have known that already if he had been for the last 2.5 months.
Yeah, no, I don't think so. I saw him in spring football. I didn't see him in baseball. I heard the Trojans have a little bit of a baseball history. Heard they're pretty good at it.
Well, Lincoln Riley, I still follow Lincoln Riley on Twitter, and he retweets USC baseball like every day.
Yeah.
So I don't remember doing that before, but yeah. So you have a couple guys here locked in for 25, and to go show you what they're thought of this early. I mean, OU right now, and it's silly to do rankings for 25. It's so early, but it's just to make a point. Number 5 class right now with just those 2 guys. That's where they're ranked. Let's go show you how early this is to have these 2 guys locked in, and then how what their rating is like. That 2 guys get you a top 5 right now. That's how early it is in that process. Yeah. So good start.
I wonder if anybody else has 3 committed 25. I don't know. There's of course there is. Somewhere there is. Somebody's got some.
Would you believe that Georgia has committed 4 5-stars already?
Georgia?
That's what this says. 4 5-stars.
25. Jeez.
Poor Nick Saban. He's like, these guys won't quit. They won't quit, and they won't stop spending money. I just think it's really interesting, though, that OU's way ahead in the 2024 class of where they were this time last year. The 2025 class obviously is early getting guys. And I actually thought that the recruiting process for Oklahoma would slow down with the added, you can now take as many visits as you want. I thought that would slow things down a bit, because before it was like, okay, you have 5 visits. So if someone uses one of them on a spring game, and then you're coming in and there's 2 or 3 weekends in June, then one reason why July was so big for Oklahoma is because most of those guys, if they were serious about just 3 schools, they could have visited all 3 of them officially by the spring and June. And so not having the ability to visit wasn't as big a deal for those guys. So I just think it speaks to the relationship that the staff has, that where things could have gotten into a situation where you had to be even more patient because guys could take more visits. Instead, they are collecting recruits at a faster rate.
I think it's hilarious that anybody, much less Georgia, has 4 5-stars who just finished their sophomore year of high school.
Yeah.
I mean, they're probably really good players, don't get me wrong, but to label them after 1 year of varsity football for most of them probably and say
Well,
they're
this young
5-stars.
man, I do want to point out,
Incredible.
Elise Williams, he's their highest rated guy. He's a 5-star tight end. He's 6'7", 235.
Yeah, I've seen him.
And his number is 9908, which is outrageously high for how young he is. Yeah, and they also have a 5-star linebacker, 5-star offensive tackle, and a 5-star defensive lineman, and a 4-star running back just to toss in there as well. So Kirby Smart,
It's hilarious.
it's unfair, just unfair. Literally unfair. They're the highest rated class right now, above Alabama's number 2 by 60 points. Which is a ginormous gap.
Welcome to the show, Oklahoma. Welcome to the show. You
That's
wanted
right.
it. You wanted it.
You wanted the smoke. The SEC is smoking right now.
Smoking. All right. But yeah, 2 guys committed there. Emmett Jones, approval rating got to be pretty high, right? I mean, good start here to getting 2 commits here in the last week or so. He's done some nice things. Of course, you have Brendan Thompson at the portal, working on another receiver in the portal potentially. We'll talk about that a little bit here in just a second. But yeah, big-time stuff right now. Emmett Jones off to a nice start to his Oklahoma tenure, bringing some guys in here. All right, we'll go ahead and take a time out. We'll come back. We'll dive into some other stuff. NFL draft, transfer portal, fellow news as well there as some former OU guys announced their new team. I just teased a little bit there. Another guy that OU is targeting just visited in the transfer portal. What would that mean if they could add him? We'll talk about that a little bit next as well right here on the AllSooners Podcast. On Twitter, you can follow all Sooners at all_Sooners. Ryan's _Ryan Chapman. Who's at John E. Hoover. I'm at Josh M. Callaway. Our website is allsooners.com. We're a Fan Nation affiliate, part of the Sports Illustrated Network. All right, segment 2. Got some other things to hit here. Some portal news and some NFL draft recap. We'll start with, I think, the big news for Oklahoma fans. A visitor over the weekend, or over the week, I guess I should say. He was in town yesterday. Colorado receiver Jordan Tyson posted on Instagram that he was home, and on Twitter they posted he was in Norman, was a true freshman last year with the Buffs, and did some nice things. 22 catches for 470 yards and 4 touchdowns. Actually led Colorado in receiving yards there with 470. Remember, Colorado was very bad, 111 last year, but he led the team as a true freshman in receiving yards, and he hit the portal, and he's in Norman on a visit. So what do we make of this? Even more than just what the ad would mean, but that Emmett Jones and Oklahoma are actively pursuing another guy, and another guy who is on the younger end, like Brendan Thompson, just 1 year of college football under his belt. How does this news hit you? What does it mean that Oklahoma is still chasing more receivers?
Yeah, I make of it that they come out of spring practice and the spring game mostly unimpressed with replacing that Marvin Mims role with what they have moving forward. You know, not a knock on anybody, but they're looking for that one guy. They're looking for that. Jeff Levy said it. I asked him the question: 15,000 yard receivers in a 13-year period or something like that since he's been a coach, Division I coach. He likes that Marvin Mims role. You knew that when he inherited Marvin, that Marvin was going to have a real shot to catch a lot of passes, which he didn't do under Lincoln Riley. To catch a lot of passes and get a lot of yards. So that's somebody that they're looking for in that role. Got Andrell Anthony out of the portal, got Brendan Thompson after spring out of the portal, bring back Jalil Farouk from last year, and you come out of spring and you're like, Coach, I think we need one more guy. And, in Tyson, we're talking about a guy that I saw the quote from his head coach last year, not prime, but last year, after he got hurt. He went down early November, I think November 5th, 6th, whatever it was, for the year. Lower leg injury is what they called it, air quotes. After he got hurt, his coach was kind of crestfallen, just really kind of gut punched about, he just had a couple of 100-yard games for us, and now he's out for the year. The wide receivers coach was all excited about his development late in the season. So he was a guy that was really coming on, really gaining a lot of momentum in his career, goes down with the injury. I think he's somebody that could help Oklahoma, especially the way the receiver room looked this spring.
Yeah, we kind of talked about this in our spring game post game, that throwing 2 passes to like 10 dudes is the same thing as if you've got 2 quarterbacks, you've got no quarterbacks. Like, that is not depth, that's bodies. There's a difference. At Oklahoma, you need depth. So it makes sense they're aggressively pursuing. I'll just be frank. I watched one half of Colorado football last year, and it was the first half of the TCU game. So game 1.
Right.
I have no idea what Jordan Tyson is. I didn't dive into it because Colorado was an awful football team. He's a former 3-star kid. I'm very skeptical of production on an awful team because it's just like, yeah, who else are you going to throw the ball to? Congrats. There is no pressure with anything you do playing Colorado football, at least under their previous regime. So it'll be interesting if Oklahoma lands him. He had a good punt returning game, which shows you he's got some open field ability. Like, I buy more into that than his actual receiving numbers because, again, it's like the NBA. If you're on an awful team, like, anyone can go out there and average 20 points a game because, like, you're the only one shooting the ball. I'm not going to buy into any production from anyone on a 1-11 football team. And frankly, I don't think that's where Oklahoma should be looking to make additions. They tried the guys making steps up from lower level spots last year, and those transfers mostly fell flat.
Just real quick, he was not offered by Oklahoma out of high school. He's from Allen, Texas, 6 foot, 170. He's not an imposing player. He's not a blazing fast player. Just the 2 games that he got finally untracked last year, he was very productive. He chose Colorado. Here's his offer list: over Campbell University, Colorado State, Incarnate Word, New Mexico, Sam Houston State, Texas State, and the Tulsa Golden Hurricane. So that's kind of where you're at with that.
Yeah, it's hard to not perceive it as a lack of vote of confidence, or the opposite of a vote of confidence is in your receiving room, that you're still, you already added Brendan Thompson. You're still looking to add another guy who's, like you guys just articulated, is not like a bona fide, just get him. You know what I mean? He's a guy who played 1 year Colorado, was pretty productive, not really high time out of high school. Colorado was obviously horrendous last year. So I don't know. I don't know what to make of it. I think of, like, remember we talked to Miguel Chavis, and he said basically, I won't apologize for adding talent to the room, like, not worrying about hurting people's feelings. So I'm not suggesting that, but it's just the fact that Oklahoma sees a need when there are scholarship limits, obviously, on a roster. You can just add in exponentially, that they feel the need to chase another guy. I don't think that's a great indicator of how they feel about the receiving room. Maybe that's an over exaggeration on my part. I don't know. But I don't know. The receiver position is really weird for Oklahoma right now. I don't know what to make of it. It's like the weirdest position on the team.
Yeah, and I think the matrix here is that Emmett Jones and Brent Venables are looking for a receiver, not that it's, oh my gosh, Jordan Tyson, he's going to come in and change the narrative and be this superstar. It's not that. It's that, hey, they're out there actively pursuing, actively bringing guys, transfer portal guys onto campus, looking for more help. Immediate posting, immediate job opening in Norman, Oklahoma.
Indeed. See, bad. Anyway, trash that joke. But yeah,
that was good.
The flip side of that, though, if you're like Ryan, you're an idiot, very open to that. A guy like LV Bunkley Shelton played 12 games in that same Pac-12 in 2021 and was not as productive as Tyson was through 9 games with the injury. And Tyson, if he had played the rest of the year and he had continued that 100-yard streak or even just getting to like 80 yards in those games, he would have really, really put behind. So that LV Bunkley Shelton, a guy that came over and couldn't get on the field last year, similar conference of fun young wide receiver on a meh to bad Arizona State team. Tyson was better on a worse Colorado team in that same conference. So maybe that gives you optimism that it could be a little bit of a different story for a young guy that really only has 9 games to go off of.
Some other transfer portal cleanup. A couple of guys announced their new team. Get your guys' reaction to those real quick. As first, you had Bray Walker. Said he's going to Texas State, which is where, of course, Marcus Alexander is. So they can just have an all OU offensive line there. Basically, they're just in the works of making an offensive line of former OU guys. I think the trade of Devon Sears for these two guys. I think Oklahoma's probably comfortable with that trade. So he now goes to Texas State. And then the big one, Jaden Davis to Miami, which is a little surprising. Not that he would pick Miami. That's where he's from Florida and whatnot like that. But, I mean, how many guys have we seen from OU hit the portal on the defensive side especially and actually end up at another Power 5 team? Mm-hmm. Not a lot. And so Jaden Davis ends up with the Canes. What do you make of that?
This was actually my prediction. The first thing I saw was South Florida, and the next thing I saw was Florida. And I said, why not Miami? He's from Miami. The Canes always need new talent. Yeah, Miami's not going to go after a defensive back from Oklahoma, right? Right? I mean, come on. No, they did because he's a hometown kid and he wanted to go there. I think it makes perfect sense. And he's a guy that has started at Oklahoma, has been productive at times at Oklahoma. I think he'll fit in nicely. Now, the Texas State thing, I have to ask the question, when's the last time Texas State landed a 5-star offensive lineman like Bray Walker?
Gotta be
good question.
Ever?
The Bobcats are rolling in the portal. We have no idea if any of those guys can play because they never played, but the Bobcats are rolling indeed. Davis to Miami. Cristobal is one of the few first-year head coaches that had it worse than Brent Venables last year, and so they just need anyone and everyone. So I think it was as simple as, not actually, but Mario Cristobal probably didn't even turn on the tape. He's like, wait, a guy that started games in Oklahoma? Yes, sign me up. Where can I get Ruiz on the phone? Can we back channel with John Ruiz to get Jaden Davis to Miami? So he'll have a big platform, but yeah, it's the Canes. It's going to be tough sledding.
Good for him, though. I mean, nice spot. You know, like we said, the number of guys, especially defensively, obviously offensive guys, there's plenty you could pick from. But defensively, to portal out of Oklahoma and actually end up at another, major program, not a lot. So good for Jaden, at least landing on his feet there. I'm sure he's excited about that opportunity. Wish him luck there. All right, shifting over to NFL draft recap. Had that last week, of course. 5 guys drafted for the Sooners, all on offense. It extends a streak that's obviously been talked about a lot as a big recruiting tool for Oklahoma. 16 straight years that at least 4 guys have been drafted, which is the longest streak in the nation, it is impressive. It's kind of a little bit of a cherry pick stat of, 4 guys, because there's certain stats you can just manipulate to be what you want them to be, and that kind of falls in that category. But still, 5 guys are taken. Anton Harrison in the first round of the Jaguars, Marvin Mims in the second round of the Broncos, Wanya Morris in the third round of the Chiefs, Eric Gray in the 5th round of the Giants, and Braden Willis got drafted. We weren't sure about him. Late 7th round to the 49ers. Winners, losers, what do you take aways from the draft last week? Best fit.
I like Anton Harrison to Jacksonville. I'm sure when Trevor Lawrence heard that news, he was like, "We're good. We got a first-round offensive tackle. I like it." I think that's a good fit. I think Marvin Mims is going to be successful anywhere. I'm not sure the Denver Broncos quarterback situation is the best thing for him, but there's a lot of Sooners and former Sooners there. So he'll start his NFL career in a comfortable position. Hopefully they get that. Hopefully Russell Wilson plays better. They get that quarterback situation figured out. Wanya in Kansas City is a little bit of an odd fit, I think. But maybe they're just so in love with Bill Bedenbaugh's productivity over the years that they're willing to take a shot on Wanya Morris. I think Eric Gray is one of those guys that's going to be successful no matter where he goes. The Giants are a good fit for him. I don't know, ideal fit, perfect fit, I don't know. But he's one of those dudes with the attitude that he takes toward his preparation and his offseason and his professionalism that DeMarco Murray talks so much about. He's going to be a good fit anywhere. And then same thing with Braden Willis. There's not going to be a million reps available in the 49ers offense for a new tight end, but he is we talked a million times about his blocking ability, his versatility. He'll fit. I think that's a great dynamic offense for him to go play in. I don't think he's going to catch 30 or 40 or 50 passes. Don't get me wrong. But he'll find a niche in that offense to where he can play for a long time.
Yeah, I think for Eric Gray, Saquon's holdout might actually play into his hands as far as a guy that can do everything in Eric Gray, not to the level that Saquon can, but he can kind of be Saquon light in camp and have a chance to like try to impress people, things like that, if that's what he's able to do. Wanye, I think that he's landed in a spot where he doesn't have to come in and like day one be a dude for them, so he can kind of get settled into the NFL life, continue to develop, and maybe they'll use him there. I'm a bit worried for Marvin, not because of anything Marvin Mims. If they want to use him in the slot, Russell Wilson refuses to throw between the hashes. Like, he just doesn't throw over the middle of the field. So I worry a little bit for Marvin Mims that he might just get lost in the shuffle due to no fault of his own. But like you mentioned, who the quarterback situation, just a guy that doesn't use that area of the field if that's where they want to use him. And then, working back at Anton, great spot there. A team that's immediately going to be competing, right? A playoff team from last year. You're protecting a really, really good quarterback, and they've had a 6-game suspension with one of their tackles. So that'll free up Anton to kind of compete for both spots, honestly, regardless of what he wants to do.
Yeah, I really like the Eric Gray fit with the Giants. I think him as number 2 option behind a bona fide number 1 like Saquon Barkley is really good for him. I kind of, there's a chance there. I can kind of envision a Tony Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott type of dynamic with those two, as him coming in, on third downs or whatever, catching passes. I like that fit. I do think that could really, really work for Eric Gray, and I've obviously been a big fan of him in his time at Oklahoma. And then Mims with Denver, I would feel better if it was like Russell Wilson of like 5 years ago, because remember Russell Wilson had as nice of a deep ball as anybody, and we saw Marvin Mims go over the top deep ball like 9,000 times in his time at Oklahoma. So envisioning those Russell Wilson deep balls that look like they just fall from the sky into Marvin Mims' hands, I can see it, but I don't know if Russell Wilson's that guy anymore. So I don't. We got to kind of that remains to be seen. One thing that's nice for Mims is that the Broncos are the OU capital of the NFL now. They have 5 OU guys. 5. That's absurd. Delaren Turner-Yell, Nick Benito, Ben Powers, Samaje Perine, and now Marvin Mims. 5 OU guys on the Broncos.
And Sean Payton has a history of liking OU guys. The new coach, he's going to fix that offense, you'd like to think. So maybe Marvin Mims does have a little bit of a shot to take off here.
Sean Payton has worked with some good OU receivers in the past. Kenny Stills, New Orleans, and I think Jalen Saunders was there in New Orleans for a brief time. So
I think Mark Clayton played for the Saints briefly, didn't he?
I know he was with Baltimore. Not. I don't know if he might.
Maybe not. Baltimore forever, and then the Rams. Yeah, that's right. I don't think he finished. I'm thinking of Jamal Brown for some reason being the offensive tackle.
Wanya Morris is funny too, because it is like the Chiefs just are addicted to OU offensive linemen. This is a stretch now of Orlando Brown, Creed Humphrey, Wanya Morris. That they like them some OU offensive linemen. They trust Bill Beanbo. I think that's good. Andy Reid and Bill Beanbo seem like they would be friends. They seem like they would get along.
Yeah.
They'd be buds. They'd go get a burger and just hang out. I could see that.
Yeah.
Although I can't see Bill Beanbo in like a Hawaiian shirt. Like, no. I think that Andy Reid would be like, I'll offer you one. And Bill is like,
I think Bill Beanbo and Hawaiian shirt would go together great on vacation.
Maybe. I see Bill Beanbo as one of those guys.
Got his toes in the sand, looking out over the beach. I mean, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, Bill Beanbo strikes me as a guy that's like, Mrs. Beanbo has to go, no, Bill, you can't wear another team-issued polo tonight. Like, do you have anything that doesn't have a Jordan brand logo or the OU, interlocking OU on it? That's what he strikes me as. Like, I get the team-issued stuff, I'm just going to rock with it.
Remember, he wants to retire to Grand Lake, man. He's all about the low-key, relaxing vibes. I see him totally in a Hawaiian shirt.
What a laundry list of guys drafted for him. I mean, adding 2 more guys.
Yeah.
It's insane. That's as obvious of a recruiting tool as there is. Like, just look at the number of guys that have been drafted after playing for me. It's actually quite the list. It really is impressive. What about the undrafted free agents here? Anybody in particular that you guys think has a shot? It's really, really hard to do. But a lot of guys got signed. Not going to rattle them all off. Deshaun White got an invite to camp. Jalen Redmond went to the Panthers. Michael Turk to the Dolphins. Anybody in particular that you're saying, I think he has some, at least a little wiggle room here to try and earn himself a spot and a job going into next season?
The easy way out of this answer is Michael Turk's going to be in the NFL. I don't think there's any question. Michael Turk has got an NFL career ahead of him. He can punt the crap out of the football. The one that I would say is probably obvious from a positional standpoint, Jalen Redmond. I still think he's got enough talent. He was a 5-star for a reason coming out of high school. He wasn't a bust at OU. He played very well. I think he's got a future in the NFL. And then the other guy that kind of would surprise me a little bit, he just needs to get on the field. He just needs an opportunity to get his body between the white lines and make plays, which is all he's done. CJ Colden. I think CJ Colden signed a small deal, free agent deal with the Vikings. If he gets a legitimate chance to get out there and do some things, they're going to see him with the football in his hands running the other direction. They're going to say, should we give this rookie a shot?
Yeah, Colton, I was going to say, is the only undrafted guy that I actually see sticking. The Vikings need defensive backs in a big way, and I feel like this could be like a Trey Norwood situation as far as what did Trey Norwood do? We just heard over and over again in camp that, he is like an interception a day. It feels like CJ Colden, when he finally got on the field in Oklahoma, what did he do? In a bad secondary, he just kept picking the ball off. So that one to me feels like a way that he could go in there with a team that is just razor thin in the secondary and maybe make some moves. I still don't know what position Jalen Redmond plays in the NFL. You know what I mean? Like, he was not productive on the interior. Is he going to slide back out to the outside? He hasn't played there for a while. Michael Turk's got to learn how to down the ball inside the 20-yard line. Like, it doesn't matter how far you can kick it. If you blow those coverages, nobody wants you. And he showed no ability to do that through 2 years. So I've really only got looking at Colden because I don't expect any of those guys to be bumping around really the NFL.
The question is, does Justin Broyles have to sign a rookie contract, or does he come in at the 4-year veteran minimum already because he's been in college for 6 years?
True.
Depends. Does the Soul Mission slide out contracts like that? I don't know how that goes.
He'll be coaching. Broyles. He'll be coaching soon, Justin Broyles. Not that he can't play in the NFL. I just have a prediction that he'll be back in Oklahoma City coaching youth at some point very, very soon.
He won't play in the NFL. No. He can't play. He couldn't play high-level college football.
Yeah, he
was inspirational, Ryan.
Shout out Broyles getting an offer from the Bears.
Yeah, I didn't expect that.
I didn't either. So that's cool. He can at least say that happened. I'd be floored if he was on a team. How do you feel about Colden, who was kind of how I feel about Deshaun White? Like, I think he has a chance maybe if he can find a way to get an opportunity. I don't know how well he's going to practice, though, to, like, get that. And also, what is he? He talked about a pro day. What is he? Is he a safety? Is he a linebacker? He's kind of nothing. He's just kind of floating around. I think he's a good football player. He's with the Eagles. So he's going to a really top-notch team and organization right now. I don't know if that's good for him or bad for him. I don't know. I don't know, honestly.
He's going to the best roster in football. He's going to have the hardest time of anybody of sticking.
So I don't know. He had several offers. He had the Giants and Buffalo. Both also entertained him. He ended up going to the Eagles, but he bounced around a little bit. He had some interest. So I don't know. I mean, he's a good football player. He had a really good season last year. We know talking to him all the time last year that he is, a veteran guy, mature kid, things like that. We'll see. I don't know. I mean, I think if he could find a way to get a shot and actually be on the field, he could maybe make some things happen and kind of earn a gamer type of thing. But I just don't know if he's going to practice well enough to be impressive enough to even get that opportunity. We'll see. I'm not sure. We'll see.
Did that offer with Philly end up being an undrafted free agent? Because last I saw, it was just a bunch of, like, he had lined up multiple mini camp invites, and that's just never a good sign. Like, if you're not even hitting the undrafted free agent, if you're just getting the mini camp invites, it's just tough. It's really, really tough to come in and, to your point, make an impact that quickly in that short of amount of time.
They need bodies for those mini camps, and that's what a lot of those rookies are. And if they've happened to find a diamond in the rough, even better. He's a tweener who doesn't really have a position, who's going on to the best roster in football. That's going to be a tough thing. Here's the deal, though. You guys know this. These NFL rookie contracts, these free agent contracts and minicamp, 3-day contracts and stuff like that they do. You can kick around in the NFL and land on a practice squad and be in the NFL, be on an NFL team, maybe not an active roster, but on an NFL team 3, 4, 5 years and make a decent living playing the sport of football that you love. So I think the guys that are doing that right now have enough, most of them have enough talent that they're going to be able to stick around and jump from camp to camp and get cut here and invited there and that kind of thing.
Well, don't forget, Deshaun White drafted into the USFL as well.
That's right. He's got a great fallback.
He does. So, you're right, Ryan. Good distinction. He's going to Eagles mini camp, and then he's actually going to go to the Bills after. I guess like the calendar works out to where he can do both. So he's going to do both. And then, he's got the USFL sitting there if he wants to go try and be on a USFL team for a little bit and see if he can't find a way to impress somebody. It only takes one, right? That's a cliche. It only takes one to believe in you.
For sure.
And we'll see how that bears out. Did you guys see also, not to like make fun of him or something, but that Amani Bledsoe got suspended for the entire season for PED usage?
Wow. That's not his first then if it's the entire
No,
season.
he got 6 games last year. He's not on a team, mind you. And he got suspended for the full year. So I appreciate the hustle. He's just trying. He's trying.
Respect.
Massive respect to Amani Bledsoe. He was on an NFL team for a little while. He's on the Titans for a little bit. He had a little bit of a career, which I'm not sure how many people thought that was going to happen, after his time at OU. So,
yeah, I think Cardinals as well.
Yeah. So shout out Amani Bledsoe. Didn't think he would be on the show today. Now, did you? Now here he comes. He's a little blast from the past. All right, we'll go ahead and take another time out here. Hit some other sports. Basketball, another portal edition. Softball's winning. Baseball's winning. Good stuff for you there. And got some new coaches. We'll talk about those a little bit as well for soccer and wrestling. Wrapping up the show next right here on the AllSooners Podcast. Final segment of the AllSooners Podcast, episode 186. Hit some other sports here. Send you on your way into your first weekend of May. More basketball transfer commits. Had their 4th one over the last week. Latrey Darthard, hope I'm saying that correctly, from Utah Valley. He is a guard. He's played a lot of basketball there for UVU. Last year, 37 starts, averaged 13.8 points, 3.5 rebounds, 1.6 assists per game. And he joins a guard room, if that's a thing in basketball, more of a football term, with Milo Zuzan, Rivaldo Suarez, and Javier McCollum. Of course, Suarez and McCollum, they both have added this portal cycle as well. Obviously, there's not going to be a lot of intel on a player from Utah Valley. What do you guys make of the addition? And Oklahoma just kind of loading up on guards here. It's their 3rd guard edition, like I said, with Suarez and McCollum.
Yeah, that is interesting that they're staying guard heavy. Basketball obviously has become transition more into a positionless sport, so you're getting guys that can play all over the floor. But a guard is a guard. You're 6'1", you're 6'2". You're not going to be bodying up any post men, right? So he's got experience, like you referenced, over 1,000 minutes played last year. He played 3 seasons plus a year of junior college. He's from Denton, Texas. So he's got some familiarity with the Sooners. I don't think he has any familiarity with Porter because Porter was in Chicago when he was at Denton. So not an exceptional shooter, shot about 42% from the floor and 35% from 3, but more of a defensive specialist, I understand. So, that role has to be filled by somebody. The defensive specialist, the perimeter guy, the Isaiah Harkless, not Isaiah Harkless, Harkless. Elijah, thank you. Yeah, I'm getting my Bible guys mixed up. Sorry, Elijah Harkless, EJ, as we called him. He's somebody gritty, somebody tough, somebody just sticks his nose in there and just comes out bloodied. That's what you want. You need somebody to do that role. So if this kid Latrey Darthard can do that, can fill that role, I don't think anybody else on this roster currently has those credentials. So maybe he's that guy. Maybe he's that hard-nosed perimeter defender.
Yeah, you mentioned the all-conference defense. I think that's what Porter Moser's hoping will translate. And then everything else, when you're taking huge steps up offensively, like if you can just maintain some semblance of the same numbers, you're happy. The other thing is, too, Oklahoma just needed depth because, again, we talked about it as guys just kept leaving the portal. Another offseason where you're having to fill over half the roster. So, and it just didn't seem like there was many like top end guys this year in the portal as maybe the last couple of years. So that filters out when you're looking to add your, fourth or fifth body that you're going to have to go to different interesting places to grab those guys out of the portal.
Yeah, doing some math here for Oklahoma, they've added 7 scholarships to the team. When you include the 2 freshmen, the 4 transfer guys, and Sam Godwin was moved to scholarship. Obviously, remember that. And they lost 8 guys, and they operated with an open spot last year. So they still have 2 spots to add more if they want. So, all things considered, they've done okay in the portal, I think, to this point. I think Porter has done an okay job, at least not being noticeably worse than they were. I think they'll probably be about the same. Unfortunately for Oklahoma right now, the same is not good because they were last place last year. So I don't know how much better they're going to be, but I think they've done an okay job. You still have a couple spots to play around with. We'll see what they do. We'll see what they do here in due time. They've had some guys visiting and whatnot, so more additions are on the horizon. Probably could use another big, obviously, at least a guy who can play the 4 for you. They all of a sudden are kind of guard heavy here.
They need some bangers for sure. Yeah. And I sold Darther a little bit short. He's got a couple of career highs of 30 and 31 points in his college career at Utah Valley. So kind of a little bit of a Harkless arc there as well, where Harkless could score, but he wasn't a guy that you relied on for it.
For sure. They got a center. I won't complain. No OU basketball complaints from Ryan for at least a couple more months. They got a center.
I mean, your depth at the 5 isn't horrible. With Hughley brought in, who you're referring to there. Obviously, Godwin is back, and then you have Luke Northweather and Yaya Kita, which who knows what those guys are or are going to be, but they're there. Year 2 in the program, so I don't know. I mean, they've done an okay job, all things considered. But like we said a million times, you can't do this every time and then hope to not just be treading water. So we'll see. We'll see what they can do with those other couple of open spots here. Obviously, still got a long way to go before ramping up toward next season. Still 6 months or so. So, all right, shifting over to softball. Another big weekend for them, continuing to do their thing. They swept Kansas over the weekend, clinched the Big 12, even before the Bedlam series, which, Ryan, you've been talking about all year, was going to be basically the series to determine who wins the Big 12. And it's already sewn up before we even got there, which is kind of nuts. They also went ahead and took care of Tulsa last night up in Who's neck of the woods in T-Town. They've won a million games in a row. I think is it 46-1 now? They're a buzzsaw. I mean, I say this every single week for 3 years or whatever now. I don't know what else to say. They just dominate, and that's what they're doing right now.
Yeah.
Yesterday was 2-zip in the top of the 7th inning, and they ended up hitting a grand slam, at least Alyssa Brito with the grand slam, but it felt like they were and Patty kept them on the field after the game to talk about the importance of focusing and put, whatever the message was. It was 2-zip in the 7th inning against Tulsa, and Patty is not satisfied. So that's the standard. I'm not, complaining about Patty or the 2-zip or anything. I'm saying that's the standard that Oklahoma set. It's so impressive to watch.
Yeah, and for them, the sweep of Kansas, that Saturday game, Patty had called that basically the most polished game that they had played in quite a while. And they were getting, first off, Nicole May was like one hit batter away from a perfect game. I think if she had the perfect game rolling, you might not have seen Kirsten Deal, but that was a no-no. They scored 8 runs in the first inning. Grace Green had her senior moment with a 3-run shot. It was 8 games straight, shutting out Big 12 opponents. That's one. I'm talking about one game right now, which is why it's like 1,000 words to recap every softball game because they have 5 trillion things happen in them. But Sunday, I thought that the moment of senior day got to them a little bit. Just Stracco looked a little more nervy than we've seen her, stuff like that, and they still rolled over Kansas. And so now it's locked in for this big Bedlam series this weekend. Not for any Big 12 implications, like you said, Josh, but this is a desperate Oklahoma State team. So if they can come in there and win one of those games, I think they'll lock down a top 8 seed, which means they get to host Supers. So they'll be wanting to get that thing rolling. But kind of the story has been, just like last year in college softball, there was parity everywhere except for with Oklahoma. In the Big 12, there's been parity everywhere except for with the Sooners. Nobody can beat them.
What's your prediction for the weekend, Ryan? Do they get the sweep?
Yeah, OSU can't score right now. Like their batting average hasn't really dipped a ton. Before that Texas Tech series, they had like 41 runners left on base in their like 5-game losing streak. And again, guys, that Texas Tech team's not anything good. Like they are home run or strikeout. That like they basically just close their eyes and swing as hard as they possibly can. And you've seen that in Big 12 play. They got run ruled twice, the Red Raiders did, but then they popped up and beat OSU in that second game of the doubleheader. Like there are issues. And the message last week out of Stillwater was don't panic. That was Kenny Gajewski's message. That's not a message of a team that's going anywhere.
For sure. Should be fun to watch. I assume it'll be, pretty nutty out there in Stillwater or whatnot. Kind of is wherever that team goes, OU, that is. Should be fun. Should be fun to keep up with and see what happens. Crazy that the Big 12's already wrapped up because, like it was kind of a given all year that would be for the conference. Not so much. A Big 12 tournament next week, and then the whole thing, the big dance, gets started in 2 weeks.
Yeah, do they go undefeated the rest of the season? Is the question. They get all the way through Oklahoma City twice, regionals. Do they go? Undefeated?
So here's the thing that'll be in favor of that this go around is that they're actually going to care to show up in Oklahoma City for the Big 12 tournament because last year that did not seem very high priority, and because they got beat, that means that this team is like the embodiment of Baker Mayfield if they've got their list, and if you wrong Oklahoma softball, they will come and pummel you. So I think they'll sweep through Bedlam and sweep through the Big 12 tournament, which is really just 2 games. Not going to get tested in regionals. The super matchup could be interesting if like Baylor's hanging around, but they handled them pretty good. So it's just about the World Series. They lost a game at the World Series last year. I don't think they'll get through the Women's College World Series without dropping a game. But that would be it.
So who wears the Bedlam Fu Manchu this week?
I think it's gonna be
or in Oklahoma City.
Yeah, I think that's got to be a Kinsey Hansen thing. She seems to be the one that could step out there. And here's the thing: if it was Hansen, I think that the Cowgirl dugout would be like terrified, like because anything she does, it is terrifying to opponents.
You know how the quarterbacks used to do it, where the whole quarterback room would wear the Fu Manchu? I'd say the Grace room. Both Grace Green and Grace Lyon wear the Fu Manchu. They're both married to football players. They know what's at stake, right?
Yeah, exactly.
One's married, the other one's going to be. Yeah, why not? A couple of Fu Manchus making Bedlam magic happen.
And those are 2 super seniors that have been in Norman the whole time, so they understand why the Fu Manchu. Why must we wear this Fu Manchu?
Exactly.
I'm pretty
Hey, how cool was that Patty just melted like that with Grace Green? I have not. I've seen her get emotional and get choked up. I've never seen her just start like sobbing and hugging players in a press conference. That was really cool.
Yeah, I think the only other time I saw that was the Champ Series at the end of the Champ Series last year, where she kind of had one of those moments. I think it was
she had her granddaughter sitting on her lap.
Yeah, and I think that
another one on the way. I think another baby was on the way that they just named or something. So yeah, high emotional content last year.
Yeah, I think Jenny Carlson was throwing out the word dynasty to Patty, and that kind of like got Patty a second that she had finally taken a step back and was like, I mean, I guess we're there. You know what I mean? Like, and that was like an emotional moment for her. But yeah, I would encourage you, go to AllSooners.com if you haven't seen it yet. That Grace Green moment, like Patty, just nothing but love for Grace Green, someone who was a Big 12 freshman of the year in 2019. A starter in every game in 2020, and then is now just like a pinch hitter, basically. Stuck it out, stayed with it. Patty called her the glue of the team, and I think you could see why with how I asked Grace this. When she hit that home run against Kansas on Saturday, I've seen a bunch of celebrations for Oklahoma home runs covering this team the last 2 years plus this season. That's the fastest I've seen them pour out of the dugout this side of maybe Alo's record-breaking home run. Like, that team loves Grace Green. You could see it with just their reaction there in that moment.
Pretty cool stuff that they, able to do that not final home series, but senior weekend, final regular season series. I was going to just say too with the Fu Manchu thing, I'm pretty sure that I could be wrong, but I think Casey Kelleher was the only guy to keep it going, and he's gone now. So that mantle is up for grabs. I don't know if these youngsters don't probably even, they were just in diapers whenever Baker was doing the Fu Manchu thing. So, and Trevor Knight and that group. So pressure's on for somebody to keep it going. Bedlam. There's only one Bedlam week left. So you can't ruin it. You got to, somebody's got to bring it. and we'll see who does it.
Have we ever seen Dylan with any facial hair at all? That was my I don't know. Like Dylan might have to start now, which is not like a knock. Like, just is what it is. He might have to start now.
General Booty has to lead this cause. If he's still on the roster in November or whatever, he has to be the guy who brings out the facial hair and then shaves it clean, except for the Fu Manchu for Bedlam Week. He's got to be.
Dig it. I dig it.
He's a heavy contender. Because, Jackson Arnold is like, he's just a pup. I don't know if he can do it yet. I couldn't do it now. So, I'm not judging by any means. Baseball. They won the series against Kansas over the weekend after an ugly Friday game. But they came back. They won Saturday and Sunday, won the series. They go to Dallas last night and beat DBU, who is a good team. If you're not a college baseball fan, you look at the team and you're like, Dallas Baptist, what is that? Dallas Baptist is a perennial top 25 team. They're ranked 16 right now. And OU went in there last night, won on the road, first time in a while. I think since like 2010 or something that they went and beat Dallas Baptist in Dallas. And they play basically every year. So it goes to show you how DBU has had their number and how good that team and that program is. All of a sudden here, they've won 6 of 7. They're pitching well. They've always been hitting, even when they were struggling, but they're hitting very well at the moment. Playing some good defense. Vibes are high. They're firmly back on the bubble. And, hey, all of a sudden, who knows, right? But it's hard not to think of what happened last year and how they got just ungodly hot out of nowhere. And they just rode that thing all the way to the championship series. I'm not going to say they're going to do that again. It's been 2 weekends, but they're playing really well right now. They won 6 of 7, like I said. Another huge series this weekend, but there's a lot of reasons to be optimistic at the moment.
Yeah, I don't see why not. We've been waiting for them to turn the corner, Josh, all spring,
all year,
kind of like they did last year. I know different team. That team last year lost the rotation, the bullpen. That team lost a bunch of seniors in the lineup, so we can't expect that. We shouldn't expect that, and yet here we are with these expectations that they're going to at some point catch fire. They're going to turn the corner. They're going to start winning these series, and maybe now we're there with 2 weeks left in the regular season.
3 weeks.
How much for you, Josh? How much work do they need to do to get off the bubble and pushed into the tournament?
Yeah, you have opportunities here starting this weekend. They go to Morgantown. West Virginia is number 11 in the top 25 right now and is currently in first place in the Big 12. So if you find a way to go get 2 of 3 in Morgantown, I would think they might be in the field right there. But especially considering that you still have Bedlam to end the regular season. You got a Gonzaga series sandwich in between there. Gonzaga normally pretty good. Not good this year. You need to win that series for sure, and then maybe we'll get a win or two in Arlington, the Big 12 tournament. You got some opportunities here, but I don't think you necessarily have to win the series this weekend. You definitely need to get at least 1, and then get 2 or 3 from Gonzaga, win Bedlam series 2 or 3 there, maybe get a win in Arlington. They should have a pretty good shot. They're metrically, the metrics like them because their schedule has been so tough. And they do have good wins under their belt. What's crazy is you look at the Big 12 standings. The Big 12 is very bunched up this year. Oklahoma could easily end up as high as 2nd. Very, very soon. And if they're probably not going to because it's asking a lot. But if they swept West Virginia this weekend, all of a sudden Oklahoma can win the Big 12, and which is nuts. So it's been that kind of year. Been a very topsy-turvy conference. A couple teams haven't been quite as good as they had hoped. And the teams like West Virginia have been a lot better than everybody thought they would be. So conference is jam-packed. You really wish you could have that Baylor series back that you lost. But, hey, if they're playing well right now. So we'll see what they can do. Big series this weekend in Morgantown. All right, last thing. Let's talk a little soccer and wrestling. I don't know if we've ever done that on either front. Well, let's do it. They got new coaches. I figure why not? Let's throw it on there. Give them a little bit of shine. So both teams hired new coaches over the last week or so. They both come from other Division I programs. Let me make sure I get the names correct. I should have had it ready. For soccer, the coach comes from Ole Miss. I remember that. Brian, you have the name handy? I should have got it right.
Matthew Mott. Yeah,
That's
Matthew
right.
Mott.
That's right. I knew the wrestling is Kish, but I couldn't remember the soccer one offhand. I didn't have it handy. So soccer comes from Ole Miss. Kish comes from North Dakota State, which is a Big 12 program in wrestling. I'm not going to pretend to know anything about anything when it comes to these sports or what kind of hires these are, but at least on the surface, they both come from other D1 programs in power conferences. What do you guys think? I mean, again, we're not going to pretend to be experts on either of these sports, but
Sure.
seemingly, veteran coaches who have coached at a high level for a while, not bad.
Successful coaches, both coaches successful at their previous stint, which one is a current Big 12 member and one is a future SEC member. Joe Castiglione, raiding party, going and getting guys that he wants to coach the programs. And here's the deal, Ryan, you know this, you follow soccer closely. Women's soccer at Oklahoma has been one of the drags on the system, so to speak, just in terms of the coach and the expectations, and they should be better. They can recruit Dallas. There's some elite players every year coming out of Oklahoma, and for one reason or another, the program has just been stuck in neutral. And so maybe Matt Mott, with his ties throughout the SEC and his history coaching at Ole Miss, maybe he gives them a shot to finally get that thing in drive and moving forward.
Yeah, I'm going to apologize. I have no knowledge of wrestling or thoughts on wrestling. Sorry.
Proud program needs to be.
Yeah. Yeah. And so I would love to. I have not got to talk to Kelly Gregg. I was hoping I was going to get to talk to Kelly Gregg before we did this because he'll have the lowdown. But with Mott, it marks a change of course for Joe Castiglione and his soccer hires. The last two have been out of the U.S. women's national team youth setup. So you're bringing over a coach like that. And Mark Carr had the recruiting humming there at the end. They had their best season in years last year. It was other stuff that led to that change. So Mott is a guy that a longtime Texas assistant and then a longtime head coach at Ole Miss. So you're coming directly from the college soccer ranks as opposed to the youth team setups, which is just different. And so I'm interested to kind of dig in and see what that all entails. He's had a handful of MPSL draftees, draft picks into the professional leagues of soccer. So he'll know the SEC. Obviously, he'll know the Texas area, like you were mentioning, with the amount of time he spent as an assistant at UT. And he's just a college soccer guy. So it represents a bit of a change. I'm interested to see if that kind of shifts results, because last year Oklahoma had set attendance record after attendance record in soccer. It felt like they finally got that thing to a place where a ton of freshmen, future is bright, than having the change. So his first thing will be getting on campus and locking down the roster that's already there. Like, hey, everybody get out of the portal, come hang and stay put.
One of the big differences you're talking about in coaching youth development versus college athletes is they're all about developing. They're all about small-sided drills, and here's how we get our footwork better, and here's the foundation we're going to lay. We don't really care about winning. They care about winning, but they really emphasize the development. In college, it's about what have you done? How many wins did you put on the scoreboard? This is a college team. Fans don't care about your development. If your players come here, they need to be already developed. If they're going to play pro, they already need to be developed. This is college. Win games. And it's really a disconnect between the youth players and the youth levels and what they're taught and how they react in college, what they're taught in college. A lot of girls come to college and they might not know how to win because they've never been taught.
Now, there is some football ties here, of course, on the soccer front. Emma Alvord, who, of course, she's the girlfriend of Peyton Bowen. Remember, the OU soccer account just tweeted a photo of her whenever Peyton Bowen flipped OU on signing day. Well, she decommitted. She's not coming to OU anymore. Now, I'm not here to suggest that Peyton Bowen's going to just leave OU now, but that, is something that caught attention because she's a well-known player because of that and that whole thing. So she decommitted. And then also to note, Bryant Wesco, who is a 5-star receiver who OU is chasing, seemingly in good place for. His sister plays soccer at OU right now, Bailey Wesco. So, again, not to suggest that she's going to leave OU and that's going to be enough to make Bryant not want to go to OU. I'm not saying anything, but there are some ties there to some OU football things that I don't know if there'll be ripple effects. I'd assume not, but you never know. You never think that a soccer coach being fired and then a new one hired could affect your football program like that, but it could. It could. We'll see.
She's an elite recruit too. An elite recruit, not just Peyton Bowen's girlfriend. Right. Like she is top level. Like that was a huge recruiting win for Mark Carr.
Very interesting. So we'll see how those shakes out. Maybe they can pull her back. Who knows? Maybe she likes the new hire and they can pull her back. All right, I think that's it for the show here. Like I said at the very beginning, this was my final show with the AllSooners Podcast. If you haven't seen, I announced it on Monday. Moving on to something new starting next week. Really, really bittersweet, like the definition of bittersweet, because I'm excited about it and I'm looking forward to it, but it is hard to leave these guys. I've loved working with both of them, Hoover and Ryan. They've both become great friends of mine the last couple of years. We've had lots of great memories. Hoover sliding down the hill in Manhattan, Ryan eating the disease sandwich. I mean, we've had lots of great times. We have. And so it's hard to move on to something else, but looking forward to it, but hard at the same time. It's why it's, bittersweet. So guys, it's been awesome. Wish you guys nothing but the best. Know you'll get somebody fine in here and this thing will keep rolling just the same, but I'll miss you guys both.
We've also had lots of challenging episodes, Josh, 3 a.m. and press boxes and getting locked in stadiums on the regular. I don't think you're going to have that level, no matter where you go in your career, no matter what you achieve. I don't think you're going to have that level of trauma in your life that you've had for the past 2 years.
I think it's probably a safe bet.
Yeah, safe bet there. I'm missing my road crew, man. Like, anytime that we couldn't link up and all three of us had together, Josh and I were always rolling Nebraska, a bunch of times to Lawrence, Manhattan, stuff like that. So it's been a tough week, but excited for you, Josh, and don't be a stranger.
Absolutely.
Just to let the listener, the viewer, the readers know, I interviewed 3 superstars yesterday. So we are underway in replacing the irreplaceable Josh Callaway. We're doing our best. You're going to love whoever we bring in. I swear you guys are going to love it because there's so much talent out there. But yeah, Josh, man, we can't express it enough. The contributions you've made to AllSooners. You're a third guy, right? You were our third member that we've hired full time, and you just represent a real kind of cross section look at AllSooners in terms of the growth that we've had, the mission that we've had, the direction that we've had the past couple of years. We've been able to hire a video guy who can come in and is talented and as polished as Josh is. It's been a real pleasure, man. So we'll see you around the beat. You're not going anywhere, I know, but we'll see you around. We'll still hang out. We'll still make memories. But, you're going to be missed.
Yeah, very glad I still get to, be around covering the team. So I'll still see you guys around in one of whose many excursions to Norman. And also Ryan and I, our paths will cross constantly as well. So I'm glad about that because I've loved working with both of you guys. And I'm pumped to see who you guys bring in and keep this thing rolling into next season and all that good stuff. And I said it, whenever we talked on the phone, but coming here was a life changer for me. It really was. Previous job, kind of scraping by, not making a lot of money, things like that. And Hoove came by with a legit full-time job offer to come work here, and it's been great. So. Hard to leave, but excited about what's next.
You moved into a house and you got married after joining AllSooners. So he's not lying. Life changing.
100%. I was in an apartment when I got hired. I was in an apartment by myself, eating like pizza rolls for dinner, and now I have a house with a dog and a wife who cooks for me regularly. So we've come a long way. So, but I think that's it. So I'm going to read this thing for the final time. I have it it's burning my brain. I'm certain I could do it without reading it, but I will read it again anyway. These guys will be back next week, next Wednesday with
special show next week, by the way. Special show.
The
bros from Trade Pros are going to join us.
There you go. We've had them on before. So good to see that. Obviously these guys, like who said, they'll bring in somebody new here soon. Maybe see a little more Ross Lovelace here in the near future. I don't know, but these guys will be back next week. Wrapping up all the latest in the transfer portal, all the stuff with, of course, softball, baseball, everything. You know the drill by now. We covered it all on AllSooners. You can catch that show on iTunes, Spotify, Google, iHeart, wherever you get your podcasts. If you have an Amazon-enabled device, Just say, Alexa, play the AllSooners podcast. We'll post on our website, allsooners.com. Click on the playlist on your phone, your tablet, or your computer. You can watch all the shows on Hoover's YouTube page as well, John Hoover Media. That's it for Ryan Chapman and John Hoover. I'm Josh Callaway. These guys, we'll see you next time.